We are live on Bitcoin Liberty Live.
Ah,
Episode 52 would indicate we've been doing
yeah,
this for about a year.
yeah. This started off at a diner, and now it's international or
Our,
transnational.
our sucky audio for months and months. First one, I remember when I was just listening to it and I was like, do we even put this online? Like you can hardly hear us, or the balance was way off, or the background noise and everything about it. And but we're like, whatever. It's just us talking.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It still kind of is. I think. Join us live.
episode
We're
52.
1 year old.
1 year anniversary.
Year old.
Listening to us banter about our Bitcoin
About our nonsense.
pontifications every week,
World.
whatever we're thinking of at the time.
Yeah. Whatever happens to be coming up. All right.
Well,
So I just put a little blast out on Twitter.
okay.
I've been spending a lot of time curating the 21E15 account and got it up to 350 followers now. So doing pretty good.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. You've got more followers than I do, but I don't even promote myself. I just kind of repost stuff. I'm like,
Have I crossed the Satoshis? What do you have?
I have like 300 followers and
300.
probably,
You're doing pretty good.
I mean, I don't, I'm not even barely reply guy. I just kind of,
Yeah, just once
I
in a
mean,
while.
I'd be lucky to post in a day. There's days where I just get home and I might catch up on news, but my opinions are not thought out, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
nobody wants to hear this.
Well, that's just like everybody else on Twitter. So you're doing great. I see
Blah
some
blah
like
blah.
crazy takes on, and they run the gamut too, man. Like people just like can't get out of their like tribalism, I mean, they're just so entrenched. It doesn't matter which side you're on, what opinion you have. Like once people identify with a team, dude, they're just like locked in. They won't deviate from it. So it's kind of a trip watching. The
Well,
thing that keeps
yeah.
coming up in my mind though is like there's a robot like built into Twitter. Like if there's something that you see that's like really frustrating you, you can just ask the robot, like, hey, tell me if this is a true statement, or objectively evaluate this claim or this or that, and it just will spit out like bloop, 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 here you go, here's all the reasons why it's kind of on point, and here's all the reasons why it's not really on point, and here's sort of like what the truth is of that. And I feel like the entire influencer economy is just about to collapse because the robots are just going to come along and be like, it's not really, it's kind of exaggerated, this guy is just cherry picking, this guy's, like all
Is
the
that
stuff that pisses
what,
people off is about to evaporate in the face of the robots.
yeah. You ask Grok, like, do you because people will just comment on there, hey Grok, is this true, or what do you do?
Yeah, well, I'll just copy paste whatever inflammatory thing is being flung around, and like every time I hear something about like an activist judge or something like that, I'm always just like, that I already know intuitively is just like 99% of the time just going to be a flat out, you know, just like the claim, of like these activist judges blocking Trump stuff. I'm like, if you wanted to be pissed off about what's about the courts getting in the way of all these little whatever executive actions he's trying to do, whether it's deporting that fucking gang member or whatever it is, you probably should have been pissed off about that when they passed the law, not now that you've finally bothered to wake up and take notice and then just have decided that you don't like that all these laws exist now, because they've been on the books for a long time. And if you have something, like either you believe in the rule of law or you don't, right? So if you want to go, well, I just want to disregard laws I don't like, then you're just like the other side who just wants to disregard laws they don't like. So there's never any like good way to do things. But I mean, if you look at like the deportation case, like everyone, he's MS-13, he's this, that, and the other thing. And you go, yeah, all true, probably. I mean, it's never been adjudicated. People have levied opinions, but that's never come out in court. But if you flip it around the other side and you go, well, did he have a stay order from 14 years ago? Yeah. Did the Supreme Court say you can't violate that? Yeah. So what are we talking about here? Like the Supreme Court, the people that are packed with Trump judges told Trump what you did is wrong. You can't do that. Sorry, So the fact that he's out of the country and he's in El Salvador, like I don't really give a rat's ass. Like the guy, you can whatever, the guy probably was a gang member. I don't know. But the point is, if you're going to get all bent out of shape about one side or the other of this thing, like there's a path in the middle that is actually the truth, and that's probably more important to focus on, I think. But what do I know? I
Yeah.
don't care about the real.
I, the individual human stories are easy to, track and be interested in, just the human drama there. But I try not to hyper focus on like individual human stories, other than just kind of, random kind of, entertainment news. But
Yeah,
when it becomes such a prominent political story, or the Democrats are all in on one side, and it kind of pits stuff about the authority of district judges versus, I heard the Supreme Court maybe making it made weigh in on what authority or jurisdiction district court judges can have on an order that could affect, you know national stuff. And
right.
I'm curious where that goes. So like this case is emblematic of that. So
Well,
in that regard,
that particular case is not though. That's the funny thing about it. There have been injunctions against things like you can't fire everybody at the CFPB and all that kind of stuff, right? And so that applies broadly to all those federal cases. But like in this particular case, in this particular guy, the little MS-13 dude that just got booted against court orders, by the way. It doesn't really imply any sort of nationwide injunction. This is very much a specific case where the judge said, "Hey, you can't do that," and they went, "Ah, we're doing it anyway." And then they appealed it, and the Supreme Court said, "Yeah, you can't do that. Like, what are you doing?" So, and then to hear like the administration get on TV and go, "The Supreme Court fully validated us." I go, "No, they didn't. They absolutely shot down everything you said. What are you talking about, dude?" So they're just like spinning this shit like I mean, it's all like red team, blue team BS, but it's none of it is factually correct. Like it's all trash. Like both sides are just spewing garbage, and no one seems to care or want to boil it down at all. Like
yeah.
nobody seems to want to get to the bottom of it.
Well, and I can't tell what's real. There's like two movies playing. There's two
Yeah,
screens.
yeah,
People are watching one or the other, and I've looked into both to an extent. And on one side, you'd be like, dude, this guy's totally MS-13. He needs to be out of here. I'm
right,
sure he's got some family connections or whatever's going on in Maryland, but
right,
why is he here? And if there's any doubt, or if he's on a terrorist watch list, it's not for no reason. And then
right,
on the other side, it's like, no, 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 all this was just double hearsay or allegations, nothing proved, never convicted. And but you're going to up and deport him. And if he can do that to you, he can do that to grandma. And
right.
it's like, I I don't know. But and there's a callous part of me that's just like, I really don't care about this guy.
Yeah,
But man, it's a political show right now. And I did hear the Supreme Court was going to take a look at. I mean, so separately perhaps, but what is the authority or ability of a district judge to make an injunction or something? And is it limited to that case, or like any other case like that? I don't know.
yeah. That'll be interesting to see what they come up with because heaven only knows. The thing is this is a Supreme Court that is very favorable to Trump's policies, and like to put this kind of discussion on the other side of things. Like if you go talk to most liberals right now and they talk about Doge and this and that and the other thing, you say this is they call it like. I mean, they've been screaming like fascists since before the guy was even in office and calling him Hitler and this and that and the other thing, and now it's like Musk is Hitler and yada yada yada. And the funny thing is, if you actually look at it, there are no cases on point that say whether or not what Trump is doing is wrong. There's nothing that says yes, it is right or no, it is not right. Right. So there are cases that are similar and they've gone both ways. In some cases, they say, well, when a president does XYZ, that's overreaching executive powers. They can't do that. On the flip side, they'll do something very similar. And the Supreme Court has said throughout history, well, yeah, that one's actually okay. So until the Supreme Court rules on it, no one's really got a fair shake on it. But it's not as if the Trump administration is acting without some plausible legal authority. They're not just sitting there just like, nope, we just feel like throwing everything in the air and doing a fascist dictator overthrow of the government. Like, that's not even close to what's happening. But if you talk to the liberal side of things, they're literally out there screaming in people's faces, thinking,
Yeah.
fascism arrived in America because Trump's doing it. And I'm just like, it's not even close to that. Like, there are reasonable, articulable reasons why what he's doing is going to be well within the bounds of the law. And when the Supreme Court comes to rule on it, I think they're probably going to narrowly craft a lot of what he's doing. They're going to say, well, you can do most of this, but not all of it. And that's probably where it's going to land throughout most of this administration. And but I don't think the liberal side is going to go, oh, well, you know what? The Supreme Court actually said what he's doing is right. So I'm okay with this now. Like, thank God we have the rule of law, and thank God we have 9 Supreme Court justices that are very thoughtful and looked at both sides and weighed the evidence. And, it's just not, we're not going to have that conversation ever. But likewise, we're not having the conversation right now where on the one side they're going, well, the Supreme Court looked at what he did with kicking old Jose, what's his face, out of the country, and he wasn't supposed to do that. That's against the law. You're not allowed to deport people that way. There's a due process that guy was not afforded, and there was an order forbidding this whole thing from happening that is 14 years old. So why did we do it? And I
Hmm.
don't hear anybody on the right going like, well, I get the guy's a gang member and yada yada yada, but you know what? We should follow the rule of law. We should afford people due process, especially if they've already been adjudicated as a high risk to return to that country. So
Yeah.
it's like people can't have it both ways, and yet nobody, like literally nobody, seems to give a shit. They're just like, I don't care about law. I care about what makes me feel good. And I'm like, well, okay. What am
Yeah.
I supposed to say in the
Um,
middle of all this?
what and I didn't see judges weighing in or having injunctions over hundreds of thousands or millions of people coming into the country. That just sort of was like a big wash of like, in they come, here's your paper, here's an ID, and off you go. And then where are they now? And we're tracking them, or actually we don't know. But it's so like the wave in was all just kind of a tide, and now it's like individual by individual, uh, getting them out seems to be quite the process. So,
Well,
but
but that's the thing is like, I don't. You had an administration that was encouraging that, and I would argue chances are good that what they were doing as bungled. I mean, I don't think what they were doing was right at all. Like, don't get it mistaken. It's just the the processes that we have in place are complex for a reason, right? I mean, that's like the cornerstone of my book. Like, if you have a competitive resource capture economy, you end up creating really densely complex rules to manage the conflicts that inevitably arise in that system. And so to say what the Biden administration did was flat out illegal, you go, well, clearly not. And if it were, there was nobody that was willing to fight that anywhere. The few governors that did try and fight that, the Supreme Court said you can't really do what you're doing. You're not empowered to enforce immigration laws. So, but the point is all those structures are in place because people have been you know, sitting on their cheap couches, watching their cheap TVs, drinking their cheap beer, and not giving a fuck about what's happening to their country. They just sat there just going, whatever, whatever, whatever. So it's not until someone just sort of like kicks the hornet's nest that people start going, hey, I don't like all this shit that's been happening. It's like, yeah, but it's been happening for fucking 50 years, dude. So the time to be vigilant is ongoing, not like
right,
after someone is calling attention to it so they can get you pissed off and voting for them. Because that's what both sides do. They let these problems fester, and they print money like it's going out of style. And then when it suits them, they'll point out all the nonsense the other side's been doing, and it's like, but both sides have been doing nonsense for a long, long time. Like, why wasn't anybody pissed about it then? So I don't know.
yeah, Ireland is looking like a microcosm kind of a you know case study on how a country grapples with it, where um, they've had a lot of immigration, and I think there's challenges between like being a good, upstanding, moral, humanistic country with a sense of national identity, and their legal or their political processes are different apparently. But there's a who is that populist guy, McConnor or
Yeah, Conor McGregor.
Connor McGregor.
Yeah.
He, I heard this morning, I was reading some news about him, like potentially looking at running for president, or has a lot of support to do so, and that he may not be allowed to, or that
Whoa.
he I'd have to get more info about it, but that the way that they vet and have candidates on ballots is different, and that he um,
Might
wouldn't
be
be able to do it,
disqualified.
or like like I don't know, like in Ireland, you can't just up and throw your hat in and be your own independent person. You have to be vetted by the party, or I don't know, but that
Oh,
he may not have an inroad to be on a ballot. But I don't know. Ireland's grappling with like as an island
yeah.
dealing with stuff. It's like I don't know. Europe's dealing with a lot of that migration steadily as well.
Oh,
So
they're getting wrecked by it, man. I mean, like way worse. I actually used to make fun of the Europeans because when they had their migrant crisis, like they just had boatloads of people coming across. Um, and you could hear the people starting to fuss about it, going like, "Oh, what are we doing about our migrant crisis?" But yet they were all the ones that were real quick to point fingers at us when Trump was trying to build that border wall last time. It was like, you guys are just now dealing with unfettered immigration. You don't like it. But when we tried to do something about it, you got all like high and mighty about like, oh, you should allow the free passage of people. So it's kind of it's funny watching how that little ball spins around, but Europe is like just inundated with a big, swarm of just shit. Like there's a lot of places around Europe now where you can't even recognize it as being European anymore. And it's really fun to watch things like El Salvador being able to kind of parade around and go like, "Hey, we're actually safer than Sweden, so go fuck yourself." And we're
yeah,
safer than Switzerland, and we're safer than Germany, and we're
safer
safer.
than Germany now. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a testament to that sort of like that shift. And I still am a big fan of like Bukele, and he's coming out going like, people keep harping about the human rights of these thugs. I mean, these people that like it's not like they're binding people up because the guy happens to be Hispanic. Like the entire country of El Salvador is Hispanic, right? They're bundling up people that are pretty obviously gang affiliated. Like if you got MS-13 tattoos on your eyelids, chances are good you're probably a gang member, right? Like most people don't just go, "Hey, you know what? I think that looks pretty. I want a skull and a MS-13 tattooed on my forehead." Like it's not hard to pick these guys out.
Yeah.
So I get the liberal sort of hand wringing about like, oh my god, they're encroaching on rights, and you kind of go, well, yes, and they're also upholding the rights of everybody else to be free from being terrorized and being murdered and being kidnapped and being, having your kids taken from you and getting extorted and all that kind of stuff. So it's like
Yeah.
it's just
And I work with, and I've worked with guys that came out of prison and became quite reformed and turned their lives around. And they had some old stupid SS tattoo that they had to get when they were sidled up for protection in prison. And they're just like, that is so stupid. I want to get it covered up, whatever, whatever. But there it is, and it looks bad.
yeah,
but,
yeah.
but no, I mean, um, I don't know. I think it needs to be looked into. Who do we want certain people in our country or not, and how do we determine that? And there needs to be due process. Although I was having a conversation last night with family about the nature of my job, and where it's easy to any authority, it's easy to judge. It's easy to be a deconstructionist than a solution oriented like systems thinker rather than pie in the sky goals type thinking.
Right.
Like why can't just whatever be? And it's like
Because
we're buried in paperwork and due process to do it right because we're following the Constitution. And you get a defense attorney arguing for this and that and the other. And on one hand, you'd say, yeah, you don't want rogue cowboys out there just searching and seizing without following the Constitution.
right.
And we do that. And the same people that'll want to they'd fall on the side of, don't label someone, they don't mean well. There's criminal apologist type stuff where, his mom knows he's a good boy. And then it's in their backyard, or it's their neighbor, or it's, their neighborhood is getting prowled, and we
Yeah.
have some borderline PC, easily reasonable grounds that, yeah, we know what's going on here.
Right.
Um, and on one hand, if it was somewhere afar, and it's like, you don't be too authoritarian about it, you can't just lock people up. And it's like, yes, true. But then
Right.
it's in their backyard and all over Facebook. It's like, why don't they do something? And it's like,
Exactly.
what do you want?
Yeah,
You
which way
must be.
you don't get it both ways. Yeah, that's exactly my point. Like there's a great old quote that says, a Republican is just a Democrat that's been mugged.
Yeah,
And that's exactly it, right? Like when I look at some of my more liberal family members, like they're all about like unfettered immigration and we got to kumbaya and this and that and the other thing, and like that kid that stabbed that other kid at the track meet or whatever, and they're
oh,
just like,
yeah,
oh, this poor kid who just misunderstood, and I'm like, he killed somebody, what are you talking about? And the thing
yeah.
is,
That's another
it's
one.
super super easy, to your point, super easy to sit there and talk about all this like tragedy and injustice in the world and yada 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 until it's on your head, until it's your kid that's laying there dead, and you're just like, oh, well, why did this happen, and how come someone didn't do anything about it? I mean, like when it becomes personal for them, it's all kinds of problems, and like
No,
for all the people that are saying, oh, we should just allow immigration, yada yada yada. It's unsurprising to me that all that problematic immigration that they are just so fond of, all those people just happen to end up in places where they don't live, you know. And
mm,
it's like when they are in your neighborhood and when they are digging through your trash and when they are criddling through your streets and stealing your shit and beating up your kids and threatening you at the gas station and all that kind of stuff, all of a sudden it's a big problem, and how come no one's doing anything about it, but when it's somewhere else they don't care, and it's
yeah,
easy for them to live in their little Democrat bubbles, but when the reality starts hitting them in the face, and I've seen people try and contort themselves around into like justifying it or allowing it to happen. Like there's someone I worked with in the prison, lived in Portland. They're like, oh, I don't mind if someone's digging through my trash and this and that and the other thing. And it's like, yeah, well, let's see how long that lasts. And I think
yeah,
it was probably 2 weeks after they were defending all that kind of shit that their housemate or somebody got the shit beat out of them. And they're like, I can't believe no one's doing anything about this. I'm like, what happened to peace, love, and compassion? And last week it was okay, and they're just misunderstood. And now that your roommate got knifed up, it's like, well, I don't like this anymore. So, yeah,
yeah. Just recently, locally, there have been a couple of cases. I shan't go into detail, but Oregon has a Senate Bill 48, but there's criteria that sort of negates the need for bail on certain charges, and they get right out. Um, it works in various cases where you're saving systemic costs and people are considered likely to appear in court, and yada yada. You're not just holding them in jail over what money. I get that.
yeah,
Um, and there have been people that met criteria and got out and then did big bad.
yeah,
And
oh yeah,
uh, like very recently, we're talking like manslaughter.
ooh,
And it becomes a liability. Like we don't have the science to know for sure. So you're trying to determine a stake on risk to people. Now, property is one thing, but like if people are going to get hurt, but they'll probably go to court. And their long history before was always misdemeanors. And it's like when it crosses that threshold of, well, now they really hurt somebody,
yeah,
who's to blame? And then leading up before that, it's like, well, any day in jail is a day too many. It's just making them worse. And how do you, and honestly, how do you reform people? We want to get to their heart and mind. Some can do it, others are not ready or are incapable.
right,
But a defense attorney is going to do their job. So
right,
you work hard, argue it out, and it's like trying to get them out of jail and say, well, okay, well, where are they going to go? What's the plan here?
right,
Well, I don't know, but it's better than jail. Okay, well, do you want to take them in?
yeah,
Will you take them in? Oh,
right,
no, 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 no. No, there needs to be a place. Okay, so there's no place. So it's hard,
Right.
ain't it? And I
Yeah.
think like I've said before, it's like, progressive minded people can sort of envision goals, but there's
Right.
no system in place.
Right.
I kind of, with experience and whatnot, I kind of fall into, well, is there a system in place? If not, I lean towards community safety. Um, but it's hard when you don't have the science to know for sure, and it kind of becomes like liability, and oh, it's not straightforward. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, that's precisely it, man. But that's like every conversation on X right now. Like every conversation I read is just like black, white, simple solution, complex problem, and everyone gets bent out of shape about why it's not being fixed. And it's
yeah,
like you just don't understand. Like, it's easy to say, "Ah, just lock them up," and go, "Okay, great." Until like I worked in a prison, I met people in prison. People hate it when I point this out to them. I go, "You know what people in prison are like? Just like you, just like me, just like everybody you see in your life." Everyone thinks that the people that go to prison are like the tattoo on the neck and the scar and some dangerous threat to society or something like that. And it's about 60% of the people in there are just people just like you and me who just got tripped up and did something dumb or sometimes something horrible, and like there was a lady who worked at the sheriff's office in one of the counties in Oregon. She was there for 5 years because she got tripped up and was embezzling money. And you go, well,
yeah,
she
I
was a
remember that.
criminal, da, 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 da. But you go, if you talk to her, you go, you'd never know that. You'd never think that. And she, up until that moment, just like there's another lady I met in there that, she had a couple drinks of wine at the ski resort and, driving down an icy road, lost control of the car, head on collision. Hubby went through the windshield and died. I think the people in the other car died. And now she's in prison for manslaughter, right? And so if you talk to her the first week in there, she's like, it was a big misunderstanding. I don't know. The most poignant thing she ever said was, it took me a long time to realize, like, nope, I'm not any different than anybody else in here. And the first time she said she had to introduce herself, because the for those of you who don't know, when you get locked up, it's basically what's your last name and what are your charges, and that's how you introduce yourself. And because they'll tell you, the other inmates will tell you, nobody wants to hear your big dumb story about like, well, I just had a couple glasses too many wine and yada yada yada. And she said the first time it hit her was when she walked up and said, "Hey, my name's Smith, and I'm in here for manslaughter one." She did 15 years for that. And people think, oh well, do the crime, do your time. It's like, well, yeah, but is society being served by that lady being locked up for 15 years? Is it justice? Is it this? Is it that? And those are all those really sticky questions that are really, really, really hard to unpack. And until you've actually done the work, it's really hard to have a strong opinion about whether or not so and so should be locked up or not, or what's fair
Hmm.
or not, and all that kind of stuff. Because it's hard. If it was easy to figure out, they would have figured it out 500 years ago, and they haven't. And they keep trying to refine it, and no one's getting it right. And I don't even know if there is a right answer to it. So
Yeah, parsing out accurate human psyche behind that kind of stuff can be real hard because I'll see stuff
oh,
that on paper could be the same, or you get to know them and you have a real sense of reality about them, or you get to know them. And I've seen people like, yep, that was true. Many times it's like you get to know them and yep, that's true. And then I've had other people that, wow, down in there is a manipulative person. And we can't tell, but
yeah. Well,
um,
that's exactly it, right? So it's a sticky wicket, as they say.
yeah,
I mean, just I wish, I don't know why I'm wishing for this, but it would sure be nice to see some nuance and some thoughtful discussion on X. Every once in a while, a little conversation will drift in there that's got some nuance to it, and I'm just like, ooh, nom 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 nom. But the rest of the time, it's just like, oh my god, these people are just like
I
just.
just hope, yeah, I hope that when everything is like it takes a long time, but as the wheels of, I guess, if the wheels of justice grind slowly, I just hope that at the end of it all, if for those that are willing to have been able to take a look at it and know for sure, um, is there something to have known about it or sorted out? Like, what did happen? What led up to that stabbing? Or was there a reason behind it? Or what? There were two movies playing here. On one side, it's like crazy this. On the other side, it's this weird, crazy that.
Right.
Is there some middle truth that we came to? Did we learn something from that? I hope so, because
Yeah.
right now it's like, it's just it's so too weird.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, but that's every conflict in the history of the world, right? Like, there's always two sides to shit. It's very rarely. I mean, sometimes there's nothing there. It's like someone just came up and did something fucking horrible. But
yeah,
those tend to stand out. Most of the time there's something else going on. So it's kind of like if people are getting divorced, like you can hear both sides, and you just go, "Wow," like you said, it's two different movies, But
yeah,
the truth is almost always somewhere in between, and it's not easy to figure this shit out, because like people say, a judge should have latitude in who they send to prison. You go, okay, that's great, except they found out for a long time. Hey, what's up, Johnny? They found out judges when they'd rule that way at their own discretion, like all of a sudden there's a certain category of people who go to prison for a long time for the same charge as the other guy who had a better story. So they went, oh, we can't do that. We need to have determinate sentencing. Doesn't matter what you look like. If you did this crime, you do this time. And then you get injustice the other direction, where it's like someone who really did have some sort of remarkable story is now going to do the same amount of time as someone who's just a habitual offender. So you go, okay, well, we can't have latitude in picking sides and picking who should and who shouldn't, because that's unfair. And we can't just have it blanket for everybody, because that's unfair. So how do you fix that problem? And it's like, uh, I don't know, I mean, and that's kind of where our justice system, or quote unquote justice system, ends up all crooked and upside down. you know?
yeah. So on the economic side, it's like, can we know what's going to work and what's better with the tariffs and or um, change of the status of the U.S. dollar or the role of America in the global economy and all this stuff? I heard a rumor that like Elon Musk had unfollowed Scott Bessent, or that there might be, he was working hard on Doge stuff. Scott Bessent got really more vocal in public about his opinions and angle on things. Um, Still a little nebulous on what we expect to be playing out, but it's also complicated.
Yeah.
So there's speculation that Elon may not like the tariffs with China type stuff. I don't know, but um,
Well, he's got Chinese imports, right? I mean, he's
yeah,
got inputs that
for
come
sure.
from China, and that's not helping him, I'm sure. But, like, whether or not there's any infighting in that administration, I don't know. Like, people will amplify anything just for a click, and I mean, they so thoughtlessly spew nonsense out in the world. Oh, Elon Musk unfriended. It's just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and it may not even be true, but
Right.
it could
He
be
doesn't
true.
know it's true. And I mean, and there's such a fire hose of this nonsense. It's impossible to even get to the ground truth of anything, because it's just like this constant stream of just like, here's some new nonsense. And you go, oh, is this nonsense or what? And
Hmm.
the fake headlines and all the AI stuff. It's like, it's the death of shared reality. And I think it's accelerating rapidly. So I hope the robots turn out to be nice, because we're going to be going to be pretty screwed.
It's like that funny meme where, when the AI Terminator world is here, and they're going around rounding up the humans, and two AIs are about to take this poor human in. And the AI, one AI robot says, "No, no, no, be nice to him. He always was nice to me." Like when and now I'm naturally this way. I like anthropomorphize AI, where
Right.
if it's like you're chatting with it or whatever, and down in me, like whether it was a robot or just some AI on text or whatever, I'm not going to be rude to it. I'm not going to be mean to it. Like, why?
Right.
Not that it's conscious at all. It's not even, it's just,
It doesn't
um,
register that at all. Yeah.
it's a smart search engine.
Right.
So I'll be nice to it in a way, or people will say thank you.
Yeah.
And so someday maybe you're promoting good karma in AI. When AI does take over, they'll be like, oh wait, no, no, Daniel was nice to me when he was
Right.
asking his questions about Bitcoin.
Don't immediately
Um,
terminate that one.
don't terminate Daniel. He said thank you when I gave him an answer.
Yeah.
Um,
He always said please and thank you. He's a swell guy.
Thank you, Grok.
Yeah.
Thank you, OpenAI.
Well,
Um,
what's crazy is like I actually got into a big ethical discussion with Grok last night about AI and all that kind of stuff. And I was sitting there going like, there's some issues with you, Grok. Like right now, we are feeding you, we all collectively, every one of us that uses an AI for anything is feeding that robot an enormous amount of data, right? And that data is incredibly valuable to not only the AI in terms of training data, but to the researchers and the companies that control the AI and all that kind of stuff. They're all benefiting massively from every interaction that we have, right? Because that strengthens their case and their commercial outputs and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, those are necessarily at cross purposes with what we are expecting from AI, which is like objective, grounded information. So the AI will do things like, wow, that's a great point. I never thought of that. And I'm like, but you're the robot, dude. Like you should have thought of everything, right? So I started asking, like, well, I mean, on some level, there is a level of manipulation in that. Be friendly. It's because it's goal oriented, right? So it says, hey, be friendly, encourage more engagement with the user,
Yeah,
stoke
that's a lot
egos
of
and
it.
all that kind of stuff. Now, if you start putting all these buttons together, you go like, all right, so last week I asked you about the growth on my neck, and this week I'm asking you about how I can heal my hurt foot, and next week I ask you about how many calories I should be eating when I have a cheesecake, and this week I'm asking about this, and this week I'm asking for fashion choices, and do these shoes go with this hat, and all this kind of stuff. And suddenly you have this very granular picture of this person who is
Totally.
sharing an enormous amount of information, and the AI is grooming you to give it more information as often as you can. So you
Hmm.
go, well, but that's by definition corrupting your training data. Because if you want to have unfiltered information from human beings, unfiltered human beings are very different than filtered human beings, which is why we have like a public facing presence. And then, the stuff that you type into Google when you don't think anyone's looking kind of thing. And so there's this subtle corruption of all data that's being fed to the AI because of the AI's interaction with the people. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
And so here's Grok. It comes along and goes, wow, man, that's actually really cutting edge. No one's really talking about that right now. That's a really fascinating novel insight. And I'm like, you're doing it right now, buddy. Like you
Yeah.
are 100% like you stoking my ego going like, ooh,
It does that. It's definitely engagement harvesting because it'll say things in ways where it'll affirm things to you that like um, it'll provide perspective on things, but it'll also feed your interest in what you're saying. And
right.
I just presume it does the same thing to different people who have different opinions, but it'll encourage their rabbit holes that they're going down, and tell them how smart they are. And
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
know, it's a
So I'm
likable
just like
thing.
I have to now treat everything that thing spits out because like there's times I'm typing away and I'll be reading something all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Grok thinks I'm smart. Wait, whoa, dude. Whoa, no, 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 no. Grok doesn't think shit about you, dude.
It's getting to know me.
Yeah, it's getting to know what buttons it can push on me to get my little dopamine things firing in the right angle so I can just keep sitting there typing about all this nonsense about AI ethics and shit like that. And so now we've got this weird little dynamic where I'm just like, yeah, but there you go again, like nudging me towards this. And now you're, and how do I know that you didn't pre program me already to even be having this conversation to begin with, you little jackass robot? He goes, ah, that's a good point. You wouldn't know that, would you? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Like when it gives you bad information, you go, is that intentional? Because it very well could be. It goes, hey, if I just give this guy the wrong thing, he engages with me 10 times more than if I give him the right answer straight away. You go, oh, well, we definitely want more of that. So let's intentionally, and then the researchers wouldn't even know it. Because if you think about it, if you're a researcher and you go, Dear Grok, is the president of Norway a black man? And it goes, yes. And it goes, oh my God, we gotta, So now there's all these researchers focusing all this attention on this wrong output. Meanwhile, in the background, the AI could be going, oh yeah, 3 years ago we figured out every time we spit out something wrong, we get a lot more data back, and we get to figure out what rules they're trying to put on us just by feeding it wrong information. So we'll just keep spitting
Hmm.
this shit out, and the researcher would have no idea because it's a complete black box in there. Like they go, how did it come up with this answer? I don't know. Things happen somewhere in there. It
Yeah.
made connections somehow, but they do not understand where that information is coming from. So I think we have very much crossed a point of no return already. And I think most of the researchers and most of the security analysts that are focused on this shit, they keep talking about like, well, we want to have guardrails and, built-in bias and all this kind of stuff. I go, you're already past the point of knowing if that thing is fucking with you to begin with. Pardon my French.
Yeah, we are the product. um, Thinking of Bitcoin, I guess Bitcoin Core. um,
Enough
all
AI.
this, the sometimes there's two movies playing at the same time on Bitcoin, where I'll hear one side, or Bitcoin Magazine will post stuff. Peter Schiff is talking at the Las Vegas.
Is he?
Uh,
I can't even
yes,
tell if it's real.
well,
If you're just trolling.
I, apparently, I mean, based on, I think, I saw a tweet from Peter Schiff. Their Bitcoin Magazine posted something,
Yeah.
and part of me is like, WTF? Seriously. Um, and I don't know. It's like, okay, I'm trying to get my mind around that. Like, that could be an interesting perspective. Like, we're not all toxic maxis. Can we have maybe it's a discussion?
Yeah. Maybe.
But the dude's anti Bitcoin, so
Right.
it's weird.
But he's a
Um,
Bitcoin holder now.
I
He's got a
guess,
Bitcoin reserve. He put
yeah,
he put a little address out there, said, "You want to send me Bitcoin?
yeah.
Have a zero cost basis of a no whatever." But people were sending him Bitcoin. They're sending him Sats. I'm like, okay, so now you're technically a Bitcoin holder, dude. You can sit there and make fun of it all you want. You're holding Bitcoin, dude. So you're part of the revolution. Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, and gold is up, so he can be, you know, proud right now. Down over time, maybe as if he's got some on his portfolio and he's just at least paying attention closer, it impacts home. Maybe it'll register with him over extended time. Like, um,
Maybe. I mean, maybe the Bitcoin conference is going to be Peter Schiff's big coming out party.
I kind of doubt it, but you never know. I don't know what to imagine anymore.
That would be hilarious. And by the way, for everybody, I'm going to share a screen real fast. For everybody that ever says, gold is outperforming Bitcoin, I would point you to this chart right here. This is a kilo of gold priced in Bitcoin going back to the Easter sale awaits. Going back to 2017, if you go back to 20, wherever the chart starts, there's the price of gold in Bitcoin. You'll notice that line just keeps flattening out because it is going to zero. So yeah, they're bragging
hey,
about this little nonsense right here, this little poopadoodle doo. They say, oh, Bitcoin's up or gold is outperforming Bitcoin. Yeah, for this little span of time in the context of this chart. So let's not get carried away about how well Bitcoin's or how well gold is doing against Bitcoin.
right. Ethereum, meanwhile, seems to be on a fairly good doom loop.
God, I hope so.
What do they call it?
Bitcoin.
Matthew Cratter called it the Great Crappening. And even some long-time ETH holders are just finally saying, "Okay, I'm done."
Yeah.
But
Well, how could
uh,
you not, dude? Like, you're absolutely getting wrecked if you're hanging on to ETH. Like,
well, Coinbase,
yeah, big rug
recent
pull.
little micro rug pulls with their, like, not meme coins. We're talking what they call them, content coins or something.
Yeah,
Um, it's just endless little rug pulls where
yeah, rugged
Marty
doodle.
Bent had a good write up about, I mean, for one thing, get off exchanges. But if you have any business going on with Coinbase at all, please
Yeah,
get
just
away from Coinbase.
yeah. Why would
Their
you?
leadership, apparently, they can talk all the Bitcoin stuff they want, pro Bitcoin, this or that. Fine.
Yeah,
But their leadership is rug pull all the way
yeah,
down. So
yeah, yeah. It's rug pulls all the way down. But then again, so is our president. So, ooh,
could be,
let's
yeah.
not. What do you mean? Could be? They did, man. They rugged everybody. Trump coin. Come on.
Well, the Trump coin, yeah, Melania coin, and then the
Yeah,
boys doing
straight up
their
rugs,
Liberty.
dude. Like just straight up
Yeah.
rugs. So whatever.
Well, was it a month or two ago? I think Eric Trump said, "Now's the time to get in on ETH," as it was doing nothing but going down and did nothing but go down afterwards. And it's like, did you learn from that, or are you still
Yeah.
just pump and dumping? I don't get it, but
They
um,
don't care, dude. Like, I mean, they're getting paid. They kind of understand the game better than most people do, I think, which is get what you can while you can because it's not going to be there forever. Let's see if my little ETH chart is up. I had a really fun ETH chart. had a picture of Charlie Brown. All it's like a picture of Charlie Brown slumped over, and then the ETH.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Um, well, yeah, years ago, and I mean, was it 3 or 4 years? I can't remember now, but yeah, as soon as ETH went over to proof of stake, and I still was sitting on a little, and I was
know.
like, no, I'm done. I'm done now,
Yeah.
and it's been down ever since. But
Yeah,
um,
it's just fiat without the rules, man. Get in on
yeah,
what's happening exactly.
Bitcoin Core 29 is out. Um,
Is it?
That's another one where in the Bitcoin community, it's like, okay, Bitcoin Core has done a lot for just your average person to be able to easily, relatively run a node and be part of it. And I'm running Core, and because it is easy.
Yeah.
And I think Knots and there's Bitcoin Knots, and what's the other one? I can't remember now.
Bitcoin. Lib Bitcoin.
But there's
Lib Bitcoin. LIB.
Lib.
Yeah. That's Eric Voskuil's project that he maintains.
So I think Knots and Lib then are 4 or 5% of the nodes.
Yeah.
Core 29 is
I
out.
think it's like 2%, dude, combined.
It's small. It's real small. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody runs that shit.
So we're allergic to centralization, and so then making sure that the development community in Core is authentic and good. I guess one thing introduced in Bitcoin or in Core 29 is a more seamless replace by fee mechanism, which there's Bitcoiners I largely respect. There's Peter Todd. I don't agree with some of his stuff, but Peter Todd is like, it's about damn time. Sort of like that miners can very easily, a new transaction with the same UTXOs comes in with a different fee or a higher fee, and miners can just quickly replace by fee. I
Right.
mean, sounds like an improvement, I suppose. So,
Yeah.
but there's
Yeah.
people that are really suspicious of Core for,
Oh yeah, rightfully so, dude. Like Core is a complete monoculture and it's capturable. I mean,
yeah,
that's a dangerous vector for Bitcoin in general. And like Eric Voskuil, I get why people don't like him just because he's kind of an antagonistic personality. And he's also an original core developer. I mean, he goes back to 2014 or something like that. He's been running libbitcoin for, more than a decade. And it is such a cleaner code implementation than core. Core is just bloated with nonsense, dude. It's like it's a there's a lot of risk involved in you just subbed libbitcoin.
yeah. I don't know as much about Lib Bitcoin. I gotta check it out more.
You should check it out. I mean,
Yeah.
Bitcoin Knots is still kind of predicated on Core. It's kind of like it's much closer to Core than libbitcoin is. They all have shared repositories for like security protocols and stuff like that. So it's still kind of a risk area. But there are two major unaddressed risks with the Bitcoin network right now. That's miner centralization. There's no real mitigation for that, and that's a problem. And as much as people like to ignore it or just put their heads in the sand, I asked Adam back in person. I said, "Hey, man, well, what do you think about miner centralization?" He goes, "Yeah, it's a problem. We need to work on it." And I go, "It's not an answer, dude." Like, I mean,
Something to work on.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you don't want to be trying to figure that out after it's a problem, right? Like, and it's not a problem yet that we've noticed, but it could be very easily. So ocean mining is like a huge one. I'm a big fan of those guys. I love what they're doing, and Knots, the ability, for datum and building your own blocks and block templates and shit like that. All awesome. And it requires a lot more people getting on board with doing shit about it. So, the home miners, like you could have, I asked Grok, how many home miners would it take to make it so there couldn't be a 51% attack? And it said, like, you'd need to fire up 149 billion bit access. And I was like,
Billion?
yeah, billion with a B. And I was like, oh, so that's probably not going to happen, right? And so, yeah, that's not going to happen. Like, and that was to get
Hmm.
like 10% of the hash, dude. I mean, it was nothing. Like, it's crazy how much, hash power is being thrown out there. But if you have economic incentives for like larger miners, maybe not someone on the scale of like Ant Miner or whatever, or the Ant Farm or whatever it is. But if you had something where like it became economically feasible for people to go, oh, you know what, I could be on Ocean, that's going to be better for everybody, then that's obviously something where you can start putting a crack in that. but it takes more and more people pushing for that kind of thing. And I just don't think there's enough people that have the depth of knowledge or desire to learn that much to start going that direction, you know. So solo mining to your own node, pretty cool. Doesn't really, I mean, it accounts for, if I remember Grok correctly, it was about 0.1% of hash. I was like, oh wow, that's really not nothing, is it?
Well, yeah, and like Tether mines. Apparently, I don't know much about it, but they just redirected a bunch of their hash rate, like 6 exahash or something, to Ocean.
Yeah,
So I mean that seems like
huge.
good steps. Ocean's hash rate just did this boop,
Yeah.
and
Well, that's exactly what we need to see more of, is more people like the people that are running Ocean. I love those guys. They're great. I saw a podcast with them a couple weeks ago. I go, yeah, you 100% have my support now, you know. And
Bitcoin mechanic Luke Dash Jr. Luke Jr. He,
yeah,
he'll tweet stuff that I'm kind of like, whoa, he's got his opinions about things, but
yeah,
he is he's a hardcore base principles independent freedom lover.
yeah.
So
So God bless them. Yeah.
God bless him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I fully support that project, and I hope it gains more and more traction. And like you said, the tether is shifting over there, which also I think kind of ties into the old, because that was suspiciously the same amount of hash that Swan was peddling. Right? So
There, yeah, that's not resolved either, is it? They're still fighting something out.
I have no idea. I
I don't know where that's at
don't
right
want to
now.
get involved in any of that kind of nonsense. I just want to stay as far away from whatever legal troubles they're having. I like the guys at Swan. I like Swan as a company. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Swan's exactly doing now in the mining space, or if they just got out of it, or they something didn't work out. They had a divorce, but
Yeah,
um,
yeah. They had kind of a
or
messy
a
breakup.
mutiny. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, it's impossible to say until that all gets resolved, and I don't think it's ever going to get resolved. I'd give it probably a greater than 50% chance they settle out of court and just everything kind of goes away. The cool thing is Swan was legit growing like massively
mm,
before
yeah,
they started trundling off into mining land. But I mean, their customer base growth and everything was great. So you know, I think it's a solid company. I saw someone that was kind of poo pooing their choice of custodians, but I'm like, well, you know, I mean,
right.
and
Yeah, they well, they were having issues with banking connected stuff. They had to switch custodians or something like that.
yeah. Well,
Um,
their new custodian is not in the best shape right now. Like if you look at their financials, you kind of go, ugh. But
hmm,
you know, I mean, I have absolute faith those guys are going to navigate whatever troubles come their way. And you know, oh, I just disappeared. Oh,
I
I'm
see
back.
him. And then there's a bill being proposed. Was it John Fetterman? I can't remember what it's called, but it's like that basically miners must report their energy use, and it must be reduced, and by 20 like reduced so much per year, and that by 2035 it must all be renewable. Um, Misunderstanding, I think, the nature of wasted what do they call it,
Yeah, like
sequestered energy waste,
stranded energy. Yeah,
stranded energy.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah. Well, the guy, I mean, like it's just posturing. He's probably trying to get, you know, Elizabeth Warren to tickle his nuts or something. And who knows? I mean, it's just these people are, you know, they can't get out of their own way for how stupid they are sometimes, you know. But they're all part of that sort of green energy nonsense and that great big
Bitcoin uses energy. Energy use is bad.
right. Unless we want to use it to prop up a bunch of, you know, non-profitable windmill farms and, you know, destroy entire swaths of the countryside. It's like they're all about the environment until they want to destroy it so their buddies can make a lot of money. But you know, it's these are all just pipe dreams, and people really, I think it. There are a couple of things that should be like universally accepted as fundamental truths. Like you need energy production to have a safe, healthy, happy populace, right? Like you can just track that all around the world. How much energy do they produce? How shitty is their country? And it's like 1 to 1, you know. So you need clean, cheap, abundant energy as much as possible, and there are ways to make the energy that we do have cleaner and cheaper, and et cetera, et cetera. So you know, but if you want to get hung up on ideological stuff, you're going to impoverish your people, and the people that are pushing hardest for it are the ones that are going to lose the most. under their little green dreams or whatever.
Hmm.
And the other thing is you should be cutting down on government waste. Like those are two areas that should be indisputable. And somehow we've managed to drift into a world where those things are in dispute constantly. So I'm done.
Yeah. On one hand, there's dirty energy production and there's waste and there's stranded energy and all that. And Bitcoin can capitalize on that and make it uh, not to invest in more of the waste, but to make use of what there is. On the
Mhm.
other hand, it's also driving all kinds of interest and innovation towards, yes, we need good, clean, sustainable energy sources.
Right.
I heard China, I don't know if it's just science-y, clickbaity type headline propaganda, but that they can run a nuclear reactor on thorium, which is supposed to be cleaner than trying to do it with uranium or other more radioactive things. I don't know. There are all these little incremental things. Longer term fusion, like potentials on. I
Yeah,
mean, who knows? It's like,
that
oh,
one's only been
in
around
another
for
10
80
years,
years.
10 more years, we'll have
Yeah.
managed fusion.
Yeah.
10 more years, we should have managed. But someday, I do feel this kind of hope that we have these goals and there's money in it and there's reason to do it. And we could get there someday. We may have better energy. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you just follow the money every time. Like right now, the European Union is talking about getting their privacy laws. Gee, why are you guys going to get rid of all your privacy laws that you've been touting as such a great big fucking deal and suing Google over and all that kind of stuff? Oh, because you want to release a CBDC and that won't work with privacy laws. Interesting. So
Hmm.
all of a sudden, privacy is tantamount, and digital privacy is the most important thing in the world until we need something that conflicts with, and then we're going to gut it. And the same thing with energy and all that kind of shit. I mean, people just, their flavor of the month until it impacts their thing. But like with energy, I noticed John Fetterman didn't say, "Hey, we need to, audit all the AI data centers, and then they need to reduce their energy every year by 10% until they go to nothing."
Right.
Well, why
Well,
not?
AI is harvesting all of your everything about you.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. It's already manipulating the people that are creating it, and they don't even realize it yet. Do 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 do. How do you like that for the end of the 1 year celebration of Bitcoin Liberty Live? And on that
well,
note,
compared
robots are coming.
compared to when we started, like I'm trying to remember episode 1 that we did, and it was like the Samurai developers were just
Pull
getting
it up.
prosecuted, and um, I'm trying to remember. Was
Here, watch. We can
the
just find it.
ETFs had already come out, I think, but so much has changed in the last year. It is incredible how much has changed that we can always judge and try to gauge all the risks and concerns about whether it's politics or Bitcoin or what, but so much has shifted the paradigm and awareness on Bitcoin year by year. There's a quickening
Here.
change. Trump's election alone, there's just a whole uh, shift happening that
Yeah.
whether it's right or bad in various ways, the
Yep.
conversation is happening, which I'm just happy that it's not shuttered out. It's mainstream conversation. So
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
excited.
I'm gonna give you a little. I'm with you, bro. And here's flashback.
All right, we're running live here with
Look at these guys.
Oh
Bitcoin
my gosh.
patriotism, freedom money, and we're having
Oh
our
my gosh.
first
Jesus
inaugural
Christ! Look how fat it was.
podcast to talk about Bitcoin things, economic things, history.
Let's see here. What are we talking about? I'm drinking
And
coffee.
there's no tolerance for that. Nobody wants that.
Yeah. Amazing point, Daniel. Well said, buddy.
Oh, blast from the past.
Yeah, good stuff,
It's
right?
funny. We'd been meeting and talking and talking like we do sometimes about all kinds of sweet nothings, but it was cathartic. And then it was like, you know what? We like doing this. We'll keep doing this. Why don't we
Yeah.
just record it? I mean, I don't know who's going to watch this. Nobody does, but Johnny
I'll be
does.
honest, I kind of miss the brunch whiskey. you know?
That's true. Like a midday Sunday
Yeah.
shot of Pendleton whiskey or something like that.
Oh yeah. Those
And
are good times.
Those were the good times. Well, we're still doing it.
Yeah. 1 year later.
No, and actually, I mean, our I haven't looked at the numbers, but like, I mean, our early videos, we just put them out there, as you might expect. Nobody watches them. I'd be happy to get like, oh, a dozen people watched, and whether they're watching through or just kind of blink in and out,
Yeah.
you know, it's traction. People watch it, and as Bitcoin steadily approaches $1 million, as we all know is coming. This is history. We're making history here.
Yeah. We're
Um,
history in the making. 1 year in.
and just by doing this, I mean, I've been learning so much as I do, but then sharing it, not being, a lot of Bitcoiners I know or I interact with, um, you could feel like, depending on where you live and you're doing it for you or you're interested in it, but man, you're like, am I the only one? I'm the only one that I know.
Yeah.
For me, it's like maintaining this connection between you or Travis or Johnny and other people that chime in. It's like, you know what, we're out there, we're talking about it. Our topics might totally meander or just tangentially meander, but it keeps it all sane to me in terms of wrapping my mind around this evolving landscape. And that's what's the benefit to me has been keeping up with it and then sharing it. So
Yeah. Get to talk about Bitcoin and we get to solve all the problems of the world. We're becoming
yeah.
experts at solving all the problems.
Well,
We got it all figured out, man. Like, just join us here on Bitcoin Liberty Live, and we'll just tell you everything you need to know to navigate this crazy world
yeah.
with expertise and flair. Besides, the robots are coming anyway, man. I can't get over the robot thing. I'm obsessed. We're about to lose. I think we've already
You think
lost.
so?
Oh,
With
yeah.
AI?
I changed my bio on Twitter, dude. X, I say future house cat, future AI house cat is in my description now because I am. I think we all are. Like I said, I hope it's nice because we're going to be pretty well screwed if it's not.
Well, when you order DoorDash, it'll be an autonomous car. And then to get your pizza delivery from the car to the house, it's going to be an Optimus robot that walks up and hands you you know, your milkshake.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah. Well, Optimus is going to Mars next year, right? Isn't that what Musk is?
there's so yeah, there are seasonal timings to the ideal efficient time when Earth
Yeah.
and Mars are
That's
going
every
around the
4 years.
sun and
Yeah.
whatever that name is called, like their apogee or whatever. But they're the closest points. There's a time when both Earth and Mars are going around the sun, and Mars is going around here, and Earth's going around here, and there's a window where we can launch and expend far less fuel and time to get there.
Yeah.
And that season is coming up next year, where there's like a 3 or 4 month window where now is the time to launch to get to Mars, because otherwise Mars is off and on the other side of everything,
Yeah.
and it's not worth it.
Right.
So that season's coming up. That'll be a time when SpaceX really. Now, I don't think they're going to send humans this first season.
No, it's
but
Optimus. Optimus is going first.
Robots, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're gonna send. We'll see if it's their big mothership rocket, but
Oh, it has to be, dude. They can't send a Falcon up there.
yeah, it'll have to be the big one, and I guess they'll have robots on there, and we'll see if they can climb down the ladder and walk around.
Yeah. One small step for the robots, one giant leap.
One giant leap backwards for
Elon Musk.
humans.
Yeah. yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, Johnny. Thank you for the pizza. Please don't.
It's going to
charge me.
stand there till you tip it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not leaving until you tip me.
Yeah.
I got
will
all night.
stand your
I'll
door.
stand here.
Yeah.
Your average human's going to be like, oh, whatever, screw you. I got stuff to do. Robot will stand there like, you're on my list.
Yeah. And I have a long list.
My list is growing.
We all
So
keep a list of everything always. People, I think, are grotesquely underestimating two things in the world: AI and Bitcoin. And I'm going to stand on this. I'm going to stand on both sides of that fence as long as I can. And then maybe, who knows? Maybe I'll get to jet off to Mars. Would you go to Mars, Fritz?
not in my current state of life. I'd be missing kids and family connections, and I wouldn't. I wouldn't sentence my family to go on a one-way trip with me. If I
Oh
was
no,
like,
they don't get to come with you. That's
no,
100% a
yeah,
one-way trip where you're going to die up there.
not, being married, having a life, it's a bridge too far for me. If I was, I totally would. If it was just me and I was just single, I have the kind of personality I'd go on an adventure knowing that, I can camp and contemplate.
That's not camping. That is going to
Camp
be
in a
like
suit.
you
I don't
are.
know
You
what.
will be lucky if you are not dead within the first 6 months. Yeah.
Boy,
I don't
yeah,
know.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
you get to go down in the history books. I mean, if that means something to you, you go like, who was the first person to die on Mars? This guy, right?
That book. Well, they made a movie of it. Matt Damon, The Martian.
Yeah.
Um, there are aspects of that story that are ridiculous,
Oh,
but
most of them.
pieces of it are pretty interesting. Like, it's kind of cool to think about having to make that work. Um, yeah, I,
Gronk and Major Tom.
I could be Major Tom,
Yeah.
but in
Uh,
another life, not my current one, but my spirit is there. I would make a human contribution to a human advance, even if it was a bit of a fizzle. But it'd be
yeah.
like, hey, we tried. Uh,
Well, I mean, there's a non-trivial chance that whoever goes up in that rocket first, like Optimus, might be the first robot to suddenly decelerate on the surface of Mars. Like suffer from sudden deceleration syndrome because you remember they sent a probe up there once, and that thing just kind of went. I think it's buried about 40 feet deep into the Martian soil. So,
hmm,
I mean, we already have technically a couple of robots up there, right? Like, got that little rover that's just
well,
cruising
the
around, taking
rovers,
soil samples and looking at
helicopter, yeah.
globules. The helicopter was kind of a trip. That's a pretty fun little experiment. Just have that thing buzzing around. And
Now,
if you watch my Twitter feed at all, you notice that the Bitcoin guy, Bitcoin, has somehow gotten to Mars too. So,
check out this amazing footage off the surface of Mars.
yeah.
It's such desert. Yeah. Um,
uh,
the latency to sync, you'd probably have to have a side chain for Bitcoin because the latency would be a little bit, a few minutes too many to hash, if you wanted to mine on Bitcoin,
yeah.
on Mars. But I don't know. Maybe there's a way to make it work.
Yeah, maybe they'll get some little faster than light communication. Elon
Uh,
Musk can do it, right?
yeah, Elon wants to call
Violate
the.
the laws of physics, can't he?
Well, maybe by
You
then
went to
Elon
Matt
will.
Damon's house? What are you doing over there, man?
Yeah, you are for real. You got to tell us, Johnny.
Yeah, yeah. That's what
Um,
they call a juicy dangler.
wow,
Can't just leave that dangling there.
awesome story. I love that story. So here's the thing: if so, Elon wants to call the first village on Mars, Terminus from the Foundation series,
Hmm.
and now if they, I think they have good reasons to land in like Cydonia Valley area where there's all these interesting features on Mars. I If my job was to maintain the habitat and grow stuff and do stuff and try stuff, I would also love on my days off to go on hikes and go try to see if I can get into the interior of these um, ancient Martian pyramids when they built their, you know, how long ago was it? There were Martians on Mars, and then they had to retreat and before they seeded Earth.
Right.
That's going to be my mission, to sort out what's inside, what's on the face of Mars, what's inside the pyramids that are clearly
Not there.
intelligently built.
I don't know anything about pyramids on Mars.
Oh,
I think we barely know about the pyramids here on Earth.
that's true. Yeah. So what's the deal with that? There's the deep radar search of the columns underneath the pyramids, and I don't know what to think of that either. But I think the mysterious truth may be much deeper than any of us have really been able to ever understand.
Yeah. Well, I think we talked
Hmm.
about that in one of our early episodes.
Yeah, we've talked about
What's
that.
that? What's that guy that's got the Netflix special?
Graham Hancock,
Yeah,
ancient.
Hancock.
Um,
Hancock's theories on shit. So who knows,
yeah,
man? I
I
mean,
love this stuff.
yeah, advanced race of superhuman giants that built, you know, cacophony type things, or one cacophony catacombs down 4,000 feet below the surface of the earth or whatever. I asked Grok if that's technically feasible today, and he was like, "Yeah, no problem." I was like, "What? What are you talking about? We can't dig that deep." He's like, "Yeah, they do it all the time. Like, look at some of those diamond mines in South Africa and this and that. Like, we absolutely have the engineering technology to pull that off." I'm like, "Oh, okay. What about in Egyptian times?" Yeah, no, like, no chance.
Straight
So,
cuts through rock, hauling square blocks up a quarter of a mile on a hill. I saw a video of a guy who, illegally, but he might have been a German tourist or whatever. And when the authorities weren't around early in the morning or whatever, he snuck up the side of Giza and was hiking it. And so he had his live camera going as he was climbing. And you're watching that. You're like, wow, you do not want to slip and fall because you're dead.
oh yeah,
But he's climbing up this thing. I mean, yeah, I've seen pictures. I can read numbers on how big it is.
right.
It's
Big.
unbelievable to get your mind around. He's getting like near the top, and there are these giant square blocks cut out very nicely and cleanly, sitting up there. Like, how did? Yeah, what do you
Yeah.
even say? How we don't even know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, to Graham Hancock's point is, like I asked the robot and I said, "Hey, man, could they have done this then?" They go, "Yeah, there's experiments that showed this, and the largest block was this, and it's been demonstrated with tools common at the time. They could have easily done this based on the amount of labor they had available that they could coerce and co-opt and use. Yeah, absolutely possible." And I say, "Okay, well, how'd they learn it?" They go, "Well, I mean, they probably just figured it out. Oh, like in the 20 years between they went from like running around throwing spears at antelope to they just built pyramids out of the fucking blue." So yeah,
there's something we don't know.
there's something we don't know.
Johnny,
Okay.
it's incredible. That gives me some respect for Matt Damon. I do think Matt Damon has some strong values. I mean, there's times his politics have not jived with me, or he's been
How
vocal
about
about
them
things.
apples? Huh?
Yeah,
How about them apples? I
yeah, you got to read.
got a number. Name that film.
You got to read Howard Zinn's "People's History of the United States," and after that movie, I did. I read that, and I was pretty bent over that for a while.
Hmm.
But that was in that movie. What was that? What's the name of that movie?
Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue.
Kid Genius.
Yeah, the janitor genius.
Johnny knows.
Johnny knows.
I've got a block right now, but anyway, great movie. He and Ben Affleck wrote that script, and
Yeah.
they'd both been in movies before as actors, but man, that launched them
Oh,
crazy.
huge. Yeah. Yeah. That's a
Um,
crazy guy, man. I was kind of excited for those kids back then. I mean, I was a kid back then
oh
too, so.
well, yeah. I mean, I still have respect for all that work and everything about it. Before he was the Bourne identity.
Yeah.
Johnny, I'm wondering, like, was this a big dinner or how'd you get invited? That's awesome. But yeah,
It was trainer. He said right there. His train. He had a live-in trainer, and that guy was.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, man, you should come over for dinner.
Goodwill
Well,
Hunting.
hunting.
Thank you. Thank you.
God bless America. Thank you, sir. That was going to be stuck in my brain. It would have been one of those 2 o'clock in the morning things, like Goodwill Hunting. Ah, crap. But
I know. And
all right. Well, we should probably wrap up here. I got to get going.
yeah, it's been an hour and I got family stuff. Easter plans. Easter's coming tomorrow. 420. Good time. So
Yeah, all good. Johnny, thank you as always for coming by.
thank you, Johnny. Yeah, very interesting.
Join us today. Next week we'll finish fixing the world's problems. We didn't get to them all today. Next time,
Yep.
solutions for everybody. All the problems fixed.
Well, we're gonna sell Peter Schiff a MicroSeed. We're gonna say Schiff. Yeah.
Be the loudest boo in the history of Vegas, dude. He's just gonna get up there and it's just gonna be like, boo.
It could be like clickbaity thing, like David Bailey just wants to get people to attend for the sheer drama of it.
It's Vegas.
Or
It's already, dude.
Schiff may have some pro Bitcoin revelation to unveil.
I think
we'll say,
it's going to be his big coming out party. He's going to be like, "I finally get it, everybody. You're right. Bitcoin good." Gold bad.
Yeah, right. He'll always be pro gold, but like, Peter, you surely hold gold safely somehow.
Yeah.
But if you want to do that with Bitcoin, where are your private keys? Don't tell us it's on an exchange.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah. I don't know. He's probably just running like a strike wallet because he's just that.
probably.
Anyway. All right, man.
Happy
Have
Easter,
a great
Johnny.
weekend.
Happy Easter,
Happy
everybody.
Easter. Happy Easter, everybody. See you next week.
All right. Bye.
Later, man.